I get up, no, 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 I get up, no, no, can't deny it.
Thank you, and right now I would like to give a big word and a welcome here, Pavlina Louzenska, who will be the moderator of this first panel.
Hi, I'm really super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to introduce my panelists. Could you come in and join me? And while they are sitting down, I like to ask everybody, please, to sit down. Like, come forward, really, come forward. You know, I see you, and you have the name tags, so I can start calling out your name. So I see Petra at the column over there. Please come over here. You know, so we are visible and we can see you and you can see you. And before we start, one of the biggest takeaways every time I ask somebody why they are joining those events like this, it's not actually to see us talking, but to see other people and to have an opportunity to network with each other. So I would like you to turn around 360 and shake hands with everybody sitting around you and introduce. And a second reason why people come to those events is actually to find an investor. So I would like you, if you are an investor or somebody who has some money, if you can raise your hand. Hey, we have one guy over there. So that's the guy you are going to pitch to tonight. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, back to my wonderful panelists actually today. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I used to be a teacher. That's going to be really nasty today. Martina, could we start with you? And could everybody of you introduce themselves and say what your 10-year-old self would think of your career just right now?
All right. Good evening, everybody. I just realized that we sit in order of those photos that is behind us. That was a pure coincidence. My name is Martina, but my original name is Meng, as I was born in China. But my family, they moved to Prague in 90s. So I ended up here, and now I'm working at Google in B2B marketing. What does it mean is that I manage Google advertising solutions through different activities like industry events, PR engagements, educational programs, acquisition programs in order to grow the business advertising for our partners from the large customers to digital agencies. But I also used to work with Grow with Google team in the local and the central team. I used to work in Prague and in London. So Grow with Google is one of the sponsors of this beautiful event. Yeah, that was #ad. And what I would tell to my 10 years old, what was the question actually?
What would your 10-year-old self think of your career just right now?
Okay. Well, definitely not thinking that I would work at Google, because when I was 10 years old, Google did not exist at that time. So, and I remember that as a child, I really loved working with my peers, with my friends, and pretending that I'm a teacher, actually. So I love being inspired by others, and I'll also give the inspiration to others. I love playing with the kids and pretending that I can teach something new and inspire them. So at that time I thought that one day I will be a teacher, which is actually not that far away from what I'm doing right now, as working closely with the teams at Google is giving them inspiration and educate them. So I guess it's a good sign.
Thank you. Jarmila, what about you?
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Jarmila. Maybe shortly about my career. I started my career in a bank here in the Czech Republic, where I worked for 13 years. So I really kind of knew how to navigate this corporate world. And then I was fired, which I think was a good decision for them as well as for myself. Because I got a chance to actually start my own business, which at that time I decided I was looking for something really simple. So I decided to start a company in Norway. And what I did was that I washed cars. Yeah? Anybody can do that, including myself, after 13 years in a corporate. And what I learned there was that the plan that you carefully put together in Excel is never gonna happen. Yeah. So that was the lesson that I learned. And once I realized my hands were really dirty and I started to worry if I will ever get rid of all that dirt, I decided to move back here to Czech Republic and then worked in startups again for a few years. And then I started Grason, which is a platform that connects restaurants with temporary staff. And this is what I've been doing the past 2 years. When it comes to the 10-year-old myself, I think that I would be actually not too proud because I always wanted to be a doctor and I'm not a doctor, and not just that I'm not a doctor, I also don't even have an office still or a flower in the office, which was very important for my mother. She always asked that, and still it's not there.
Maybe we can talk to the WeWork guys about the office thing after this. Yeah. Lucie, what about you?
So my name is Lucie. I guess I am a techno-optimist who loves efficiency. I've been working with startups for a decade now, and I believe in their power to bring change and innovation to our society and to help solve the challenges that our society is facing, which is why I work with startups to help them overcome the pains of scaling up. And my other strong belief is that also many of the other pains or the remaining pains of our society can be solved through education, which is why I'm preparing a program for children to actually help them face the world that they will be growing up and that when they will be adults in 20 years will be very strong in AI, and so helping them develop skills that are not replaceable by AI, and to use technology as a tool and not just like consume it as pure entertainment. And I believe that then their minds will be bright enough to connect all the dots and build the next startups to solve really the rest of the technology issues that we will have at the time. And my 10-year-old self would be probably surprised that I'm so passionate about education, and also like about how much magic I can actually do with my own head, because controlling what we think and what we do is something that we all have the power to do, and that I was never taught to use when I was 10 years old.
Thank you. I love that. Everybody give an applause, you know, after each of them talks. Like, seriously.
Hi everyone, my name is Kveta, and my career I actually started 20 years ago in Národní 17, close by here, when I started to work in a company. Now it would be startup, then a word like startup didn't exist. And I've been around technology. I studied computer science on Czech University. And then one day I decided I need to quit this technology world, and I applied for being a flight attendant. So I was flying the sky with the beautiful view from the office. I think like this was the best part of the job. And then 10 years later, I started to help my husband, who is a software entrepreneur. And I started with jobs that nobody wanted to do. And I ended up building a training department, really setting up the marketing department. And then one day I decided to quit, to go to Harvard Business School and do the executive MBA. And then in 2017, we founded Ytica. That's maybe the reason why I got invited here. And we got some seed money that we calculated. The business plan was like, we have money for 18 months, and we got acquired by a publicly traded company, Twilio, in 18 months. So that was good timing. And I've been then for a year in Twilio, really responsible for the integration of the team. And now I'm proud mother of an 8-month-old baby. So that's me.
That deserves an applause as well, you know. I looked into some data actually. So 137,000 startups are created daily, and 90% of them fail. Only 2 in 5 startups are profitable, And up to 70% of startups scale too early, and that's a reason why they fail. Also, the most other usual reasons for failure are incompetence, lack of experience, and personal problems. And Lucka, you mentioned that you advise startups. So actually, if you work with startups, what's your most usual advice, or what's your most usual challenge that you encounter with startups?
Well, once you have like the idea of what you're building, then in many cases it comes really down to people and how to organize them. So finding the right team and setting them the right priorities and organizing them in a way that is scalable and sustainable.
Kveta, you went through different phases of the startup. What were the key moments for you in the growth of the startup?
You mean with Ytica? Well, we were 15 people, so like I don't have experience like Lucka has. But the key moments is that we found a market fit. So like that we really felt and had feedback that people are willing to pay for what we are building. And then the next phase was like that there were some third-party companies interested in our company and willing to acquire or partner with us.
It's really great that you're talking about the product market fit, because I did research and more than 30% of startups actually fail thanks to the lack of product market fit. Jarmila, how did you find it with your startup actually? And what does your startup do?
Yeah, actually what I advise anybody who has an idea for a startup, I always say don't keep it to yourself. Talk to as many people as you can, validate the idea, listen to what they have to say, ask if they would be willing to pay for it or under which circumstances they would do that. And this is also how we validated our idea. Yeah? So initially I talked to really a lot of people, both on the restaurant side as well as to workers, and then we simply developed MVP and then we iterated throughout the process. Yeah.
Lucka, well, you were, for example, in Kiwi, and it was growing. I mean, what Jarmila mentioned was really applicable for early stage startup. Were you still validating while growing?
The market fit?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were basically doing all the time live A/B or ABC testing of everything that went to the customer. With KiwiCom, which is a B2C product, it's relatively easy so that you really see immediate response. And since we were a startup, we were able to adapt the product really instantly to the response of the customers. So that it fits best their interest.
Kveta, how did you find your blue ocean for your startup actually?
Actually, we were told, we were asking our potential customers, potential partners, and we actually wanted to do something about analytics, but towards customer journey analytics. And then when we were pitching it to one of our potential partners, we asked him directly, so what do you need? What is missing in your portfolio? And they told us, oh, it's reporting. And we were thinking, okay, we were considering reporting as a part of our product. So we started with that one. So really ask everybody. I know that in Eastern European or Central European education, at least my background is like that you should know. Yeah, you study for the exam and you should have the great answers and you know. But in business, I learned that it doesn't work. Like you as a single person will never write the perfect business program, right? You need to discuss it, you need to challenge it, you need to ask people who you wouldn't ever ask, because they can always bring different perspective, different questions, and maybe like really destroy it.
And for me, it's not only about actually validating the idea or getting new perspectives why I should talk to people, but also those people can actually bring you additional contacts. I always give this example that when Grason was still just an idea, I went for a massage and I talked to the woman who was giving me a massage. Like that doesn't make sense at all, right? But at the end, she gave me contact to one of the restaurant owners here in Prague, with whom we then validated the idea in a pilot. So, like, yeah.
Do you use some of course, like we all talk about talking to the users and so on. Do you have some specific techniques, frameworks, or methodologies, any of you, that you are using?
What really helped us, and maybe product people, especially from software, will know it, is pragmatic marketing framework. And we were 4 in the company around the product. We called ourselves growth team. That we went through this training. It's a 6-day training in US, but they do also already trainings in Europe as well. And that really helped us to be all on the same page when we were discussing product.
Martina, you wanted to say? Okay, there's a kind of a lot of discussion if hiring consultants for this, because you say like talk to your customers, but did you have any mentors or did you have any consultants that you actually used? Were they key players as they seem to be in the startup world or not?
Well, for us in a, let's say, mid-stage phase, we used startups when we already were able to afford them, and at the same time we didn't have time to bring on senior people, because they take time, like from when you start searching for them until you hire them, and we needed like the knowledge very fast, and to be able actually to define what will be the next steps in that area. So it was very useful to like use an external consultant to help us with the specific knowledge, especially when we were like doing internal stuff, either in finance or in organization, so that until you get to the stage when you can really well integrate a senior person on that level, it's helpful.
I would just add that it might be good to have, maybe from your previous careers, good relationship with analysts from the area that you are willing to build a product in, and you can also have some friendly discussions and pitch it to them. So it's you probably won't have the money to pay for the day, but.
Well, no, finally, I have something to add. So I totally agree with ladies that it's good to have people that are trying to solve some similar problems as you have, like be part of the community, be part of the mastermind groups that they are actually solving the same issues as you are facing and you are solving or trying to solve. So you are not inventing the wheel again, but you can share your thoughts, your experience with each other, and that's great to be to have and to be part in.
I actually read that startups that have mentors grow almost 4 times faster, and they raise 7 times more money than that. Jarmila, you went through a startup competition actually, which is in a way a consultant or a mentor or a way how to go through that. Would you recommend that to startups to go?
Yeah, definitely. Not for the mentoring side so much. Not that I would mean that mentoring doesn't make sense. It makes a lot of sense, and I think that actually, especially when you are a small startup, actually very many people are willing to help, even if you were to charge you a normal rate, you would not be able to pay for that, but they are very often willing to help and devote some time to your project, so don't be shy to ask. And regarding the competitions, yeah, we participated in the Women's Startup competition that's actually happening again tomorrow. And it was very, actually for me, the main what I got from it was mainly inspiration. I saw other women and girls founding their own startups. I saw them, what they were struggling with, and I was encouraged by what they could achieve. So that was the, yeah.
I would just add that I find it quite helpful, because you can first bounce your idea and get feedback on it, which is super useful. And then you might potentially find either your co-founder or early stage employees, and also your angel or VC investor, because well, they need to get the deal flow from somewhere, and they love these types of events. So it's if not money, they give you feedback. So I find it really useful as well.
Great that you mentioned actually finding the money, because that was the next topic. Kveta, you went through actually selling your startup. And Could you describe the process, or what was kind of the most difficult part of it for you?
It was crazy, but actually it was very difficult for me personally because it was first company, and I didn't want to sell it. And I was dealing with it on multiple layers. Internally, I didn't want to sell it because at Kveta I wanted to continue building the greatest startup. Then I was really in a day-to-day touch and in the office with the employees, and we didn't disclose it to all the employees, so I had to be really keeping it on a very secret level, which is oftentimes very difficult because like you want people to prepare you something, you want certain information, or you change priorities because some things are really super important. So it was really tough. And then on the entrepreneur and like a partner to Simon, to the CEO, it was a great thing to sell the company and to go through the due diligence, but it was very tough time for me.
So you work, partly we discussed it before this actually, you work a bit like an angel investor yourself. What are you looking for when you are negotiating with startups?
Well, it's difficult to look at numbers in the early stages because, like you mentioned, they never then materialize, but at least they can show some sense of understanding how the process of numbers will be working in the future. Most importantly for me, it's about the technology, what the startup does, or its impact potentially on society, on like how it's beneficial. And then on the people themselves, like if they are strong enough to actually make it happen, because one thing is the idea, but then actually building a startup is often very tough. You need to be very resilient and at the same time very resourceful and be able to come up with alternative solutions all the time. So trying to understand that person in a short period of time is challenging.
Jarmila, you're building a startup, so it must be very different from corporate world actually. How do you keep that sanity that Louzenska mentioned actually? What's your trick for that?
Sorry, what do you mean by sanity?
Mental balance.
Calm.
Well, it's not.
Zen.
Yeah, it's not particularly easy to keep your sanity in a corporate world.
I can agree.
So I think that those words are completely different. But speaking generally, I'm fully aware of that I'm not able to work 14 hours a day, like 7 days a week. It's just, it doesn't work for me. I get very tired, I don't have any good ideas, I just get awful and stressed and all that. So that's the first thing I pay attention to. I just try to not overwork myself. So make time to relax, to think, and I also encourage it in our team. Yeah, I always try to convince the people that, you know, sometimes your body just tells you, okay, I'm tired. So I say, okay, take a break. You know, if you just walk outside, or if you look out of the window, even though it seems like you're doing nothing, it might be the best invested time, because some idea may occur and you just need it, not just to keep your mental health, but I believe that these activities really are beneficial to the business as well. So yeah, no special secret, but I try to listen to myself and make time to relax.
Knowing how super crazy fast and challenging it was building Kiwi in such a short period of time, I wonder how it's actually possible to build a startup successfully while maintaining like normal life. So I would like to turn the question to Kveta, how you did it with your time schedule during these 18 months of Ytica.
Well, maybe some of you know, but my husband is the co-founder. So and we had by then 7 years old daughter. So we were all in, and actually we missed it so much after it was over, and we didn't take it as some sacrifice. It was just very natural. We were in the flow. That was actually a thing that I was thinking. I woke up at 6. I went to gym and then started the day with Ytica, and I went at midnight, 2 a.m. to bed. And if you are in the flow, you're doing what's your passion, and you believe in it, then it's the greatest time of your life.
So I think it's normal and totally natural that as humans we sometimes feel tired. As I remember that with Lucka we started our chat behind over there, that I admitted that sometimes I feel tired and I'm looking forward to actually to be alone and to spend some time with myself, not giving all my energy to some external events. And it's good to have some extra resources for yourself to keep some energy and mental space aside, not to put 120% to the company or to any activities that you are doing, because that's not sustainable in the long term. So just be nice to yourself and have your own time.
I think we are going to actually hear about mental health for startups more and more. The other day I was mentoring in Romania, in Bucharest, and we did 2 workshops on value proposition canvas and on mental health. And actually all the founders went to the mental health one because that's what they were struggling with. They said, like, value proposition, we can probably figure this out, but this is such a huge issue. Let's go.
I would just advise that don't do drugs. They don't work, especially not in the long term. And I'm serious. And what helped for me really was actually getting a coach who helped me big time to go through the process of setting up priorities and knowing what's important and not to get too dragged into the problems personally, because that used to be my problem, that I was like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? And then I realized that with retrospective, it wasn't always so hard of a problem, but we were taking it very personally. So a coach is much better.
So how do you keep your teams motivated if not with drugs?
Actually, I was thinking about it 2 days ago, that my management style changed a lot, because you will probably believe me that I've been managing teams for 20 years now. So back then, when you were still kids, I was already managing a team, and the style that I applied at that time was very different to the one that I apply now. Because at that time, when I had one-on-one meeting, it was more like going through a to-do list, where are you, what's the problems, why are you behind schedule, okay, done, next one. And that's totally different from what I do now, because now because these daily routines, that's basically taken care of by stand-ups, some ad hoc meetings, and so this is not a topic for one-on-ones anymore. To some extent, it might be still, but very often I start one-on-ones by asking, so how do you feel? And we talk about how people feel, what they struggle with, how they are motivated, if they are motivated, why even they work for Grason, what it can bring them. And this is very different. I realized I spend a lot of time actually taking care of people's emotions and trying to find ways how to develop them on their soft skills.
Yeah, and this is a change that's actually happening throughout the business sphere, that companies are realizing this necessity to actually take care of people, just like these startup founders in Bucharest. And what I find helps a lot is actually having a strong vision to deliver to these people and making sure they understand it, what's their particular role, where they fit as the part of the big puzzle inside the company, and by knowing, for one, what the company aims to do, and how approximately we plan to get there, and what their role is in that process, they can actually figure out themselves what exactly they need to do, and they don't need such specific to-do lists, and they can come up with the solutions themselves. So it's a win-win in the sense that they are more motivated by having more responsibility, understanding their fit in the company, and at the same time being more productive, or like being able to bring solutions themselves to problems that otherwise you would have to figure out yourself, and therefore they do the work for you, and that's very helpful.
And one thing to add is if you see someone demotivated in the team, maybe try to give this person some challenging task. Maybe this person is seeking for something more. So at least it works at Google that people sometimes they need to feel the challenge, and they are then like going straight away into the process, starting brainstorming, starting trying new things. So that's something that is working.
And I would add, sometimes you need to give a hug. It helps as well.
I love it that we have the female panel and we ended up talking about this like emotions and you know how you need to hug your co-founder and so on. That's kind of unexpected, right?
Okay, that didn't sound that good to me.
No.
No, but I know, because very often I hear a lot of people actually complaining that the young people, that they are not responsible and whatever. And I don't have that experience myself. I actually think that young people are very skilled, very motivated, very able to self-organize themselves. And what I feel I have to do for them is to give them an empowerment, like give them a chance to shine, and then just help them very gently along the way. And then this is my view on leadership, and especially towards younger generations.
What do you consider your biggest management mistake? Any of you?
It didn't happen to me in Ytica, but once I fired someone on his birthday. It was like in the very beginning of my career, and I fucked it up so much. Actually, that's another fuck up. I didn't know that he has a birthday.
I sometimes got like mad, angry, like furious. Wasn't pretty.
You shout?
I think so.
You didn't, but that's what
I
people
prefer
told
to
you.
erase that from my memory.
I don't have any particular fuck up, but what I see as a weakness of myself, it's that I think I sometimes just take too long to make a decision. Yeah, so just a reflection of that.
Okay, just like we have the Slido as GP, so go for the questions. I'm going to fire up quite fast questions to the girls before we go into the Slido, so just kind of to go into that. Martina?
Yes.
An advice you would give to your younger self?
Love the problems. I think what I learned now, and I would like to give advice to my younger self, is if you have any problem, you're trying to solve it, love the process of learning, love the process of solving this problem, because after you change the perspective that you're dealing with something and you're actually starting loving it, you start learning and you start enjoying the process of dealing the issue, the problem. So that would be the advice.
Jarmila, grow very fast or grow steadily?
That's the first time I hear such a question. I think that in a startup you grow as fast as is possible. Especially in the early stage, I think it's really difficult, or at least it was for us. I don't know how it was for you, because you're just not ready in any way. And whenever we doubled or tripled in a short time, we just have to redo everything, like nothing worked. It's not just that you add resources, you add some extra power here or hire additional person. It just doesn't work this way. You have to rethink everything. So sometimes it's fast, it's hard, but you never wish for, okay, let's grow in a slower pace. I just can't imagine that.
Lucka, what to learn now? If you were, what's kind of the trend? What's to study? What's to go for?
I think that what will be very valuable is understanding human behavior and how people make decisions. Anything that's human specific that can't be replaced by AI, and learn coding as a another language, like you speak English, you code, and you then are able to ask for information from the machines.
Okay, you speak English and Python. And Kveta, what about the prioritization? Do you have any tip for that?
Great question. I think, as Luzka mentioned, having a coach or at least a support group, your personal board, you can call it, is something that can help you tremendously, because sometimes we are too much in like taking things personally, thinking that something is more important because of something, and not seeing because of emotions, the big picture. So having really a bouncing wall in multiple people is really helpful.
Very good. I'll go to the Slido questions. I actually have an idea who to ask. Martino.
All right.
How do I find a mentor for free?
Well, if you're part of the community, you definitely can find a mentor. You just need to ask someone, hey, can you be my mentor? For sure, definitely Grow with Google is offering Launchpad, which is a program that offers mentoring for free. And also for ladies, and now there's different programs, for example, Odessa, Film Palette, and they're gathering all the women in the community, and you can actually meet very interesting people there, and just simply ask the question if someone has the chemistry with you. I think that's a perfect start for being a mentor or having a mentor.
Very good. Lucka, how would you advise a person with a promising idea but a lack of resources?
On finding their business engine?
Mm-hmm.
Again, going to events and because your lack of resources, all you need is your time. So as long as you have that, you're good. You need to be able to formulate your idea. If you struggle even with that, again, programs like Grow with Google or any startup incubator, they start with like how to formulate your idea, how to pitch your idea, and organize events to meet actually with potential either mentors or business angels. So I would start with that.
And a last question, almost last, Kveta. Can you build a startup part-time in the beginning? Do you think you can build it part-time? And I think we can even apply part-time on being maternity leave.
I think you can start doing the research, definitely. Maybe when you are on the leave or sabbatical, or you have a full-time job and you wanna explore what's next for you. But I don't think that really building it you can do without doing it 100%. And that applies to everybody in the founding team or in the first team. Like, you need to be in the one spot and be there full-time.
And Jarmila, the last question, what was the most challenging part in your startup growth? What is the most challenging part?
Yeah, it's not just one, there were multiple, definitely. But at the very beginning, where we finally actually did it seriously, meaning when we started selling our services and nobody wanted them. Then we got a first customer and then nothing again. And then second one and then nothing. So the growth at the very beginning was very slow, like that really surprised us. And then we got to a momentum where it started. And I think that, and we experience it even now, like there are times when we grow really fast and then surprisingly for us, the time comes when it slows down, things slow down and you just never know what's gonna happen. So, and at that moment you already are in, you already invested even not just your time, but probably also your savings and so on. And you are not seeing the market response that you would like. And it can get tough pretty fast.
I can add to that. I have found that founders usually need 3 times longer to validate business model than what they thought at the beginning. So that's probably why they run out of money. We are getting to the end. I see Patrick somewhere. But last question for my panelists, all of them. What is the key takeaway for you from our panel discussion? And what do you want people to take away from this? What's this one message you want them to
Perhaps
cherish?
I can start. Just do it. Because I never regretted what I did. But I many times regretted what I didn't do.
For me, it would be don't be afraid to work hard. It's hard work, but it's super fun. Like Kveta said, you get in the flow and you just enjoy it. So even though it's endless hours, because you eat and breathe your startup, like from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to sleep, it's fun. And from my perspective, it's super important to be able to actually formulate clearly what your startup is doing or building, so that you can first of all communicate it to the customers and they get it, and also communicate it to your team or investors. Basically, the idea needs to be so understandable that anyone, even your grandmother, can get it.
I would add to it, think big, have really big dreams, and don't be afraid of them. And do everything you can every day to achieve them, because you can. It's just on you.
So when I was entering to this venue from the outside, from the street, I saw the neon sign over there. It says, "Do what you love," but that sounds very cliche. So I would add something else. Probably do network and talk to people. Use the most of it, as everybody here in the room, you are doing something, you want to achieve something, and there are similar people with a very similar mindset and similar activities. So use that, because the networking and the community creates new opportunities for you. So use the space and use the opportunity here.
For me, it was don't do drugs. I think that's a really important underline of our discussion.
Remember that.
I will really keep repeating that. By the way, last kind of weird statistic I found out, there are currently 145 unicorns in the world. So as Kveta mentioned, go big, because there can be 146. Thank you very much for listening us. I think all the girls are open to talking to you, to network, to maybe become your mentors, maybe become your investors, maybe. Ask them. That's the only thing, how it starts. Thank you for coming, and hands over to Patrick for the next discussion. Thank you.